To the surprise and relief of everyone, Kwame and his parents appeared in the midst of the people. The townspeople were shocked and angry when they heard the story about how Chief Aboagye had sent his men to burn down their house and how little Kofi had overheard the plan and was able to alert them to get out just in time. No one was bold enough to confront Chief Aboagye, so they comforted Kwame and his family and promised to collectively build them another house. When Chief Aboagye discovered that Kwame and his parents had not perished in the fire, he was enraged and immediately knew that someone had tipped them off. A few days later, Chief Aboagye visited Aisha's parents, bearing even more gifts. This time, her father boldly turned down his marriage proposal. He refused his gifts and returned all the gifts previously brought to their house by the chief and his servants. "We thank you for your interest in my daughter, Aisha," Aisha's father said. "But I'm sorry, Chief. Aisha cannot marry you." Chief Aboagye stared at Aisha's father, then suddenly laughed, a very menacing laugh. "I am Chief Aboagye, the greatest and richest chief in this town. Do you think you can make me a laughingstock and get away with it?" Aisha's family huddled together in fear. With the slightest motion of his hand, Chief Aboagye's men seized Aisha's brother Kofi. Kofi kicked and screamed, but he was no match for the strength of the men that held him. "Take him to the cell," Chief Aboagye ordered. And the 4 men marched off with Kofi. Aisha's father and mother cried and pleaded with Chief Aboagye, but he just smiled at them. "I will be here in 3 days for the wedding ceremony. After Aisha becomes my wife, I will take her home and release your son Kofi to you." And so 3 days later, the family of Aisha prepared to give her away to Chief Aboagye to become his wife in exchange for their son Kofi. Meanwhile, in the cell where Kofi was kept, Kofi had been searching for a way to escape. The cell was built underneath Chief Aboagye's house. Once a day, food and water was brought to Kofi. Kofi knew he was no match for the guard who brought him the food, so he thought of another way that he could overpower him. He decided that when the guard arrived with his food, he would play dead, which he hoped would cause the guard to open the cell with the keys to check on him. With his plan ready, he lay down on the floor very still and waited. When the guard came in with the food, he called Kofi's name, but Kofi didn't answer. He just lay on the floor very still. The guard became afraid. The guard was worried about what would happen to him if Kofi died in his care. He took out the keys and opened the cell door. He went into the cell without locking the door behind him. He stooped low to touch Kofi and to shake him awake, when suddenly Kofi pushed him down and bolted out of the cell at full speed. Kofi did not look back to see if the guard had run after him. The guard began to shout to call the attention of the other men in Chief Aboagye's house. And soon they all bounded after the young boy. The 4 men ran after Kofi, but Kofi was too quick for them. He had run faster than all the men and jumped over the high wall of Chief Aboagye's house. Once he was outside, he ran as fast as he could to the town's only police station. "Help! Help!" he screamed. "I need help!" A police constable took a look at the scared little boy and took him into his office. "Now take a deep breath," he said, "and tell me what has happened." And so Kofi narrated the story of Chief Aboagye and Aisha, his sister, and how Kwame's house had been burned down and he had been kidnapped. "You must hurry, Mr. Policeman," Kofi said. "The chief is forcing my sister to marry him today, right now. We must stop that wedding." The police constable bolted into action, summoning for his men. Together with Kofi leading them, they made their way to Aisha's father's house. The wedding had already started, and Aisha looked so sorrowful in her wedding attire. Her lover, Kwame, and his parents had gone to live with a relative because they could not bear to see what was happening. Chief Aboagye was presenting the dowry to Aisha's father when the police constable and his men burst in and arrested him. The police carried Chief Aboagye away to be tried before a court of law. Aisha's father wept tears of joy and gratitude as they were reunited with their son Kofi. The whole town burst into merriment as Aisha and her father walked to the house where Kwame and his parents were staying. Kwame and Aisha were joined in matrimony as husband and wife in front of both families, their friends, and the whole town. If you like more stories like this, follow for more.